The apparently ideal carpenter's life turned dark in Maple Grove, a quiet suburban neighborhood, living with her husband, renowned architect Nathaniel Carpenter, and their 2 children. Cecilia Carpenter, a committed nurse at the neighborhood clinic, had been leading an apparently perfect life. Benevolent under the surface of their idyllic family life, though, were secrets that would reveal a startling and graphic truth. Cecilia had always trusted Nathaniel almost automatically. They had met in college, fallen in love, and created a life together many would have envied. Nathaniel's architectural company was booming, and Cecilia's gentle demeanor made her a popular member of their town. But Cecilia saw minute behavioral changes in Nathaniel over the past few months. He started to get more reserved, working long hours, and sometimes disappearing without notice. Friends, sorry to interrupt, but please help me reach 1,100 subscribers by the end of the summer. I will be very pleased. Let's keep going. Their marriage started to show first cracks when Cecilia smelled an odd perfume on Nathaniel's clothing. Her first misgivings surfaced when she discovered hotel receipts buried in his briefcase. Choosing to look into it more, Cecilia started painstakingly tracking Nathaniel's movements. She found explicit text messages and images on his secret email account, exposing an affair with a client of Nathaniel's company, so verifying her worst fears. Driven by resentment and treachery, Cecilia resolved to meet Nathaniel. Her confrontation, however, turned into a furious argument, as Nathaniel denied everything and charged Cecilia of invading his privacy. The situation grew worse, and Nathaniel left Cecilia alone and depressed as he bolted from the house. Days stretched into weeks, and Nathaniel's absences started to show more regularity. Thoughts of Elise and the betrayal Cecilia suffered raced through her head. She started to disintegrate emotionally, losing concentration at work and cutting off contact with her family and friends. The once cozy and affectionate house became frigid and silent. One terrible evening, Cecilia's world broke totally. Police called her to let her know Nathaniel's body had been found in a shallow grave outside of town. Following an anonymous tip, ground-penetrating radar had been used to locate the body. Along with Nathaniel's body lay Elise Devereaux, having been cruelly murdered. There was quick and exhaustive inquiry into the double murder. Assigned to the case was seasoned investigator Detective Julian Rios, noted for his sharp intuition and methodical approach. Nathaniel had been living a double life, he soon found, with Elise serving as his mistress for more than 1 year. Although the first evidence suggested a crime of passion, Detective Rios thought there was more to the tale. Now, the main suspect, Cecilia, came in for interrogation. Though her emotional condition was precarious, she insisted on her innocence. She said she found the affair and confronted Nathaniel, but she fiercely denied any role in the killings. She had been home alone, wallowing in her grief and rage, so her alibi for the murder night was weak. Detective Rios dug more into the life of people engaged in the inquiry as it developed. He found a network of lies, jealousy, and secret motives. Turning out to be blackmailing Nathaniel, Elise Devereaux had threatened to reveal their affair should he fail to leave Cecilia. Between his love for his family and his mistress's expectations, Nathaniel had grown progressively hopeless. Rios also learned that Elise had a past of latching rich men into her web with her charm and beauty. Broken relationships and shattered lives abound in her past, each one more sad than the next. The detective's gut feeling informed him the murders were more complicated than they seemed. Maple Grove's community was in shock in meantime, everyone pointing fingers and murmuring about the once happy Carpenter family. Rumors and speculations ran wild. The media frenzy accentuated the anarchy by depicting Cecilia as a resentful wife, motivated to kill her husband for adultery. Detective Rios was drawn to Cecilia's steadfast innocence as he assembled the facts. He couldn't get rid of the sense that something vital was lacking, even as the case was under increasing pressure to close. Buried in the convoluted lives of Nathaniel, Elise, and Cecilia, the secret to the riddle lay buried. Detective Julian Rios couldn't get rid of his impression that the case was far more complicated than first appeared. Devereaux found, as he dug further, that Nathaniel had been involved with other people besides Elise. His research turned up still another important player: Nathaniel's aspirational architectural firm business partner, Damien Lucero. Having always felt bitterness toward Nathaniel since he felt his own abilities were overshadowed by his success, Damien's personal life was as stormy, despite his merciless approach in business. Divorce-torn father of two, he was known for his dishonesty and manipulation. Rios started to wonder whether Damien might have wanted Nathaniel out of more motives than only jealousy. When Rios discovered financial variances in the company's records, his doubts grew. Presumably to keep Elise quiet and happy, Nathaniel had been surreptitiously funneling money into a personal account. But more investigation turned out that Damien had been embezzling money under cover of Nathaniel's quiet behavior. Nathaniel had confronted Damien, threatening to expose him when he found the embezzlement. This meeting started a series of events that finally brought Nathaniel down. Nathaniel found himself cornered as Elise's blackmail grew more severe and his financial misbehavior surfaced. Driven to save his family and career, he had arranged to come clean to Cecilia and file legal action against Damien. He sadly never had the opportunity. Nathaniel had planned to see Elise one last time on the night of the murders in order to terminate their affair and get any proof she possessed against him. Unknown to him, Damien had been following him, resolved to get the proof of his embezzlement that Elise had threatened to reveal should Nathaniel fail to meet her expectations. When all three gathered at the far-off location, the situation got rather hot. Nathaniel was overcome by Damien in a last-ditch fight. Realizing the risk, Elise tried to get away but was caught and silenced always. In an attempt to hide his tracks, Damien buried their bodies. But a pang of guilt and a loose end drove him to tip off the police, so revealing the graves. Rios understood great pressure from his superiors and the media as the inquiry developed. Public view was split. Many were sure Cecilia was guilty, but Rios dug further because of his instincts and the growing data against Damien. He found out the anonymous tip came from a phone registered under a fictitious account connected to Damien's office. Given this fresh data, Rios devised a scheme to have Damien confess. Under police observation, he organized a sting operation, including Cecilia, in a regulated confrontation with Damien. Damien's cool under pressure broke, and he exposed his degree of complicity in the murders and his firm embezzlement. Seen on secret cameras, his admission was the break Rios needed to arrest him. Cecilia's emotional condition was a roller coaster in meantime. Her husband's treachery, the charges, and the horrific experience of being a murder suspect had really worn on her. Her close friend Marissa Kwan, another nurse who stayed by her through the worst of circumstances, gave her comfort. As the truth slowly surfaced, Marissa's unwavering support and encouragement kept Cecilia strong. There was strong case against Damien Lucero. The prosecution put a strong case together, using his confession and the financial records. Damien's trial turned into a media extravaganza, with every element under close inspection and public broadcast. As evidence was shown and witnesses testified, the courtroom was charged. Now cleared, Cecilia told about her confrontation with Nathaniel and her devastation upon learning of his affair. Her testimony, together with the proof against Damien, presented a clear image of a man motivated by desperation and greed. On all counts, The jury declared Damien guilty. He was sentenced to life in prison without chance of parole. The aftermath for Cecilia was mixed once the trial ended. She had been cleared of any misbehavior, but the emotional scars persisted. The once energetic woman now carried the weight of her husband's treachery and the horrific experience she had gone through. But Cecilia started the slow healing process with Marissa's help and the love of her children. Having solved one of the toughest problems of his career, Detective Julian Rios was praised for his commitment and instincts. But the case stayed with him, a reminder of the complexity of human nature and the shadows that sometimes hide under apparently flawless lives. Maple Grove started to progressively go back to its calm schedule, while Damien Lucero was safely behind bars. But the shadows of the past stayed, especially for Cecilia Carpenter and her kids. Once echoing laughter and warmth, the house now held memories of loss and treachery. Cecilia resolved that leaving Maple Grove was the only way she could really advance. She sold the house and moved to a smaller town, so she might start over free from continual reminders of her past. Her nursing abilities in great demand helped her to land a job right away at a nearby hospital. Though first hostile, her kids adjusted to their new environment in schools and found comfort in the fresh start. Cecilia met Dr. Adrian Mateo, a kind and committed doctor who had lately relocated to her new hometown also. Through close colleagues, Adrian had learned about Cecilia's story and found great respect for her fortitude. Their professional relationship developed over time into a close friendship that would help Cecilia greatly needed. Detective Julian Rios kept working, his name strengthened by the Carpenter case's effective closure. But he would frequently find himself wondering how Cecilia was doing. The case had touched him more profoundly than he had expected, and he felt close to the woman who had suffered so much. Months became a year, and Rios arrived in Cecilia's new town on a standard follow-up on another case. Under the cover of following her well-being as part of the continuing case file, he chose to visit her. Startled, but honestly happy to see him, Cecilia invited him into her small house. For hours they caught up on life and considered the turbulent events that had brought them together. It was abundantly evident from their conversation that both had discovered direction and peace in their new life. Rios respected Cecilia's resilience and her approach of reconstructing her life for her kids and herself. In turn, Cecilia valued Rios's commitment and honesty, qualities that would have finally spared her from a destiny she did not deserve. The dialogue came naturally, and between them, an unspoken connection started to grow. Under the pretext of business, Rios found himself visiting Cecilia more regularly, but each visit strengthened their bond. Seeing the good impact Rios had on Cecilia, Adrian urged their developing relationship since he knew Rios's presence would provide stability and security Cecilia needed. Cecilia and Rios's friendship developed over years into a romance. The small pleasures, walking, dining, and spending quiet evenings together, made them happy. For Cecilia, Rios presented an opportunity to start trusting love and friendship again. Cecilia served as Rios's reminder of the reason he had chosen his career: to pursue justice and defend people unable of defending themselves. Cecilia's kids grew close to Rios as their relationship bloomed. Over their teenage years, he turned into a positive male role model who guided and encouraged them as the family created fresh, joyful memories together. The scars of the past gradually disappeared. Years later, law enforcement officials would cite the Carpenter-Lucero case as a model of careful inquiry and the need of trusting one's gut feeling. Often asked to mentor younger detectives, Detective Julian Rios's name came to be associated with integrity and tenacity. Now known as Cecilia Mateo Rios, Cecilia carried on her nursing career until opening a free clinic with Adrian, committed to serving impoverished areas. Her narrative evolved into one of resiliency and hope that motivated many people confronting their own challenges. Ultimately, the tragedy the Carpenter family experienced became evidence of human will and the ability to rebuild and discover love once more. The tale of Cecilia and Rios was one of healing and atonement, demonstrating that even in the worst of circumstances, there is always hope and the chance for a fresh start. In the small town where Cecilia had decided to start over, a story of recovery, love, and community took place in place of Nathaniel's betrayal and Damien's crimes. Though they never totally disappeared, the past's shadows never defined Cecilia's life. Rather, they provided a background against which a narrative of triumph and the ongoing force of the human spirit might be seen.